Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk to you about a concept that's been playing on my mind recently, which is the idea of, is enough ever enough? So this relates to satisfaction, whether it's financial satisfaction or quality of life satisfaction. And for me, it's all about, at what point in life will I look back and think, I have enough. I either have enough money, or I have enough assets, or just my quality of life is significant enough that I am happy with it. So one thing that this leads into is how you define happiness. So for me, I find that happiness comes from spending time with others, and it's not necessarily a completely self-driven thing. Now, although happiness can be learned and you can teach yourself to be more happy, the situations you find yourself in also greatly affect these. So whether you define happiness as a financial success or an independent success, or whether it is the people that you surround yourself with being reliant on you or you being reliant on them, defining your own happiness is one thing that's crucially important to finding that point where enough truly is enough. Now, one thing that I find important is to make sure that I don't compare my happiness too much directly to others. So this is something that's quite difficult to do in modern society, where social media encourages you to present this profile of yourself online, which is the most positive, successful, happy version of yourself. It's very rare that people show their insecurities online. So I find that going on social media, if you look through people's posts, what you'll see is the highlights of the best part of their lives, which they'll then spread out for a longer period of time than they actually spent in them. So for example, if somebody goes on a fantastic holiday, they may post that holiday for the next 6 months or for the next year, and that will make you think that throughout that entire time they're either in the fantastic place where they're posting photos from, or they're in that happy state of mind. And that can really wear down your own mental image of yourself. Because if you're living your life where you're on a day-to-day grind, maybe you haven't been on holiday that year, or maybe the last holiday you went on wasn't as fantastic as theirs, then you're comparing yourselves to their lives. And as that goes on, then you're comparing to snapshots of their lives, not just their true lives. So not only are you not directly comparing to the struggles they're going through, but you're actually specifically comparing to only the best parts of other people's lives. And this can tie into unhappiness and mental health issues, but comparing yourself to others can really cause significant issues when you're thinking about your own happiness and well-being. For me, one thing that's associated with that is perfectionism. So I'm very much a perfectionist. I redo things until I feel that they are perfect. It's a habit I'm trying to break out of. But perfectionism comes hand in hand with a lower level of happiness at certain points. So for example, when I completed my degree, of course I was fantastically happy that it was over and I'd closed that chapter. But until I got my result, I spent the entire time thinking, well, I wish I'd done this better, I could have done that better. When actually, that's a completely irrelevant standpoint to take, because what's done is done, and I had done it to the best of my ability at the time. So of course, in certain situations, being a perfectionist can help, and it does mean that you can put in an extra bit of work, or you're more driven in certain situations to achieve. However, it also can detract from the happiness in life, so it's something that I'm trying to get over to try and make sure that I can maximise the happiness I have. So one thing that does tie into happiness is money. As much as people say money can't buy happiness, you need a minimum level of money because it provides that security and that freedom to be able to do the things that you want to do. So for me, the level of financial freedom that I desire is to get to the point where I no longer need to work a 9-to-5 job and work for the man, as they say. What I'd rather do is get into a position where my finances are stable enough that I can pick and choose when I work, whether it's either working on YouTube or working as a consultant for a firm. It's the kind of thing that I want to be able to pick and choose as and when I work, and dictate my life not around my financial situation, but more around my own time, so that I can pick my moments to relax, and I can pick my moments to go on holiday, but also I can choose when I want to work. So figuring out when that point is quite important, and actually for most people that level of financial freedom doesn't necessarily come until your retirement point, because at your retirement age you've reached the point where your pension will be saved up enough that you can have that control of not needing to work, and you can take the time off to go and travel or to relax or to pick when you want to work if you want to. But I don't want to necessarily reach the average retirement age of 65 in the UK before that point. I'd quite like to have that level of money and that level of financial freedom long before then, so that the majority of my life, when I have time and energy, is the time when I can pick and choose where I want to be, when I want to be doing things, and what I want to do. So for me, having that level of money where I can sustainably live without having to work a 9 to 5 and where I can dictate my own hours is paramount to defining my own level of enough. So at the point where I feel I'm either earning enough money or I have earned enough money and saved up in investments, to be able to do that partial retirement where I get to pick my own hours and how I work, but knowing that I have the financial cushion to not work if I don't want to, that would be a point at which I would be incredibly happy with my financial situation, and that would be a point at which I think I'd be able to reflect and say that I have achieved enough. Now, of course, you can overachieve and move past that point to the point where you don't need to work at all. But I do think that having a job or having work to do every now and then is crucial to stop boredom, because life is a long, long time. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. And as a lot of us will have discovered during this coronavirus lockdown, you do end up spending a lot of time not really doing anything, and that can lead to quite a lot of boredom. So it's something that I think is quite important, is reaching a financial stability where you don't have to work if you don't need to, but you can work if you want to. So that ties into one of the 4 things that I think you can do to maximize your happiness in life. So the first, of course, is, as I just mentioned, that life is a marathon, not a sprint. So life is a very long time. When you start your working career at 20, 23, 25, whatever point it may be, you feel like you've already been alive such a long time and that your career is going to be over very quickly. But if you start your career at 20, then that leaves you with 45 years before you retire. Then you've got to do more than twice as long as you've been alive, just working. And that's actually an incredibly long period of time. And during that time, making the most of both your working career and your investments and your side hustles are quite important. So developing an understanding not only of financial situations, but of investments you can make is something that's crucially important on the side of that. So although life is a marathon, not a sprint, the idea of getting rich quick is still appealing because it means that you can retire sooner and it means that you have more time to yourself. But actually, get rich quick doesn't necessarily work, and in a lot of cases can put you in a high position of risk. Whereas getting rich slow is proven and tested and does actually work. So if you remember that life is a marathon and not a sprint, then all you need to do is set up a steady and continuous investment into a fund that returns 7 or 10% a year, and then you'll see that cumulative interest is actually what does most of the work for you in the later years of your life. So if you start a fund early on in your career and you let the cumulative interest do the work, then that can replace a retirement fund and can actually far surpass any amount of money that you'd have in a retirement fund by the time you retire. The second thing that I would say is paramount to increasing your happiness is finding what you personally like as a human. So that's not just what you like doing in your job, but also what you like as hobbies, what you want to do when you're not working, and who you are as a person, and staying categorically true to that throughout your life. Now that's one thing that's very difficult to do, because it's not so difficult to identify what you like in life. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there and try as many things as you can. But actually being proud of who you are and being able to do the things that make you happy is something that's far more difficult, especially if they're things that either have a stigma against them or that aren't very common. So that's one thing that will lead to significant increases in happiness in your life, is if you can identify what actually makes you happy and how you can use that to improve your situation. Then, as I said, this one ties into the life is a marathon, not a sprint, but investing as early as possible is something that is really going to maximize your life in your later years. It ties into the idea that time in the market beats timing the market. So what this means is that the longer you're in the market, the better your returns will be, as opposed to just waiting and waiting and waiting for the opportune moment. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to invest at the opportune moment in your current time frame, so say in the next 3 months. But you shouldn't necessarily wait years and years to invest on the hopes that something might change for the better. So investing as early as possible is something that's really going to help you later in life, and is something that I think will be crucial for defining that financial freedom that you might want. And finally, the most important thing for me is to not compare yourselves to others. So as much as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, they're all fantastic to keep up to date with what people are doing in their lives, don't trust the illusion that people post. You don't know the negatives that may be happening in their lives, you don't know what they could be suffering with, whereas you know every moment of your own life and you know exactly what's going on. On top of that, I'd add not comparing your financial or your success situation to other people as well. Some people become millionaires in their 20s, others become millionaires until they're past 50, 60 years old. There's no need to compare your current financial situation to other people's to define your level of success. You are, at the end of the day, on your own path in life, and that will lead you either to the success that you work hard for, or it will lead you down another road which you may find more rewarding. So I find that comparing myself to other people actually negatively impacts my understanding and my belief of my progression of my career, because I quite often see highly successful people at my age who have achieved far more than I have. And if you compare yourselves to those people, then really you're putting yourself in a backward position, because they are the highly successful, the high achievers, and you don't know what kind of hard work or luck that they've put in. So just sticking to your own path can be highly rewarding, and it'll actually improve your happiness by not comparing to other people. So those last 4 points are the 4 key things that I think are important. So remembering life's a marathon and not a sprint. Finding out what you define as happiness for yourself and staying true to it. Investing as early as possible. And then finally, not comparing yourselves to others. I think those 4 things are crucial for maintaining your happiness and allowing you to define that point of is enough ever enough. Now this can be a topic that I'll come back to and reflect upon in a year, 5 years, 10 years maybe, to see whether I have reached that point of satisfaction. And then you guys can use it to set your own targets as to whether you'll be satisfied with your life in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however far down the line it may be. So that's all for today's video. If you did like the video, please smash the like button down below, and of course subscribe if you're new around here. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know in the comments section, and I will see you in the next video.